I've never considered myself a master of financials, but what I do know is one big thing, which is that you can have fun while making money and you can make money in a fun way. What I do, I have a podcast called Fuck Around and Get Paid. And that's what I help people do is follow their fun straight to the bank. Most people don't believe that's possible for a variety of reasons. And that's why I do this deep somatic work. And the work that I do is mostly helping people to overcome or work with the things that are stopping them from loving life and making good money while they do it.
What people forget is that financial mastery is so unique. There isn't one particular way. And financial mastery does not mean having millions of dollars in your bank account. I think that's another misconception is that, I have to have a lot of money in my bank account to be a financial master of my own life. That is 100% not true. And I love that you're teaching people about how to have fun while making money. In my personal opinion, and this is how I've always felt and believed, that if I'm doing what I do well and I'm putting good out into the world and I'm doing what I love and what energetically is aligned with me, then guess what? The money's going to find its way. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified. I am your host, Jacqueline, or Jax Crider. And today we have Miss Jennifer Liss, and she is she teaches like energetics and all kinds of deep somatic healing, all kinds of things. I'll let her tell you a little bit more. So welcome, Jen. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, why you're excited to be on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's really a pleasure to get to come and be here. So I think it's funny that your podcast, it's not funny that your podcast is called Financial Mastery and is about that. But for me to be invited on, if you had said this to me several years ago, I would have been like, why would anybody invite me on that podcast? But because I've never considered myself a master of financials, but what I do know is one big thing, which is that you can have fun while making money and you can make money in a fun way. Like fun money gets to be all of your money. And so what I do, I have a podcast called Fuck Around and Get Paid. And that's what I help people do is follow their fun straight to the bank. Most people don't believe that's possible for a variety of reasons. And that's why I do this deep somatic work. And the work that I do is mostly helping people to overcome or work with the things that are stopping them from loving life and making good money while they do it.
Yeah, well, and I think it's so interesting because you're not the first person who's said that to me. And a lot of times people, when I ask them to be guests on the podcast, because some people ask me and some people, I ask some people, they'll say, well, I'm not a financial expert. Like, I don't know what I could possibly offer. And what people forget is that financial mastery is so unique, right? I mean, there isn't one particular way. And financial mastery does not mean having millions of dollars in your bank account. I think that's another misconception is that, I have to have a lot of money in my bank account to be, a financial master of my own life. That is 100% not true, because the truth of the matter is what mastery looks like is so different for each and every single person. And I love that you're teaching people about how to have fun while making money, because I think so many people have this idea that making money, first of all, has to be hard. It doesn't. And then that making money isn't fun, because in my personal opinion, and this is how I've always felt and believed, that if I'm doing what I do well and I'm putting good out into the world and I'm doing what I love and what energetically is aligned with me, then guess what? The money's going to find its way, right? Like what I need to have, like it finds its way, that kind of abundant mindset. But a lot of people don't feel that way.
It definitely was not me. And that's why this lesson for me and what I teach has been hard learned, because everything that you just shared there, except that part, that beautiful part at the end, which is like, I trust that money's just going to flow to me. Hell no, for most of my life. That was definitely not me. I definitely grew up with a mentality of, I had a dad who worked, I lived in Wichita, Kansas in the Midwest, and my dad went to work and he worked hard to provide for us. And that was pretty much all I really remember my dad doing, was sleeping and working. And so that's definitely the mentality, that hard, beautiful. And he has such a good work ethic. And so do I, very disciplined at work. But I came to realize after 2 times of burning out that I was like, 2 times is a pattern. Like, I don't want to keep burning out. And I was like, I've got to do this a different way. Just absolutely, I'm not going to do this anymore. And the interesting thing though, is that I've always had this sense of like, it does get to be fun. And I think it's always been my guiding light. It gets to be fun. Like, I went to college and my parents were like, go to college. That's the smart thing to do. But I just knew I wanted to do hair. And so I left. I left college and I went and I did hair. And I built a really good business. I had a great business. I was making six figures, which at the time, I'm in my 20s,
That's a
making
lot of
six
money.
figures, my own business. But it stopped being fun. And I started working like I was burning myself straight to the ground, 13-hour days. I had a hair client who came in, it's 10 p.m. and she's in her 80s because it's the only time I could get her in. Like we're both there at 10 p.m. and I'm like, this is insane. Like, should she even be driving at night? Like, what are we doing here? And then
Yeah,
I
that is
left. I
that's
got so
crazy.
burnt out. I got so burnt out. I was just burnt to the ground. And I was like, okay, this is not fun anymore. This is not fun. And I quit. I just quit. I just like gave all my clients to my friends and I stopped. And I went back to school, finished my degree, and I started doing marketing. And it was really fun. It was really fun. Like I was writing scripts that were so ridiculous. We had disco balls and confetti. I worked for this big corporation and somehow they were approving my scripts that were ridiculous. And we're like making these videos. And I was having so much fun, but eventually I was working 13-hour days again and not having any fun at all. And I was like, okay, that's what has led me down the journey. So if you are like one of those people who work is hard, believe me, I get you. But I'm telling you, it does not have to be that way.
No, I completely agree. In fact, and I think I've told this story before on the podcast, but when mortgage is a very common industry to burn out in because first of all, there is no real structure to our job, meaning that like people call us all kinds of hours of the day, all kinds of days of the week. There's no like real, structure. I mean, you can put the boundaries there, but you have to do it. Like the industry is not going to do it for you, right? Unless you actually work in like a call center where you punch in, put a headset on, handle this and then leave. No, there is no such thing as like work-life balance. Like that doesn't exist, which is why so many people burn out in our space and all these different things. And when the industry started downturning, I like had to start asking myself, like, why do I really like doing it? Because I didn't dislike it. Like I actually did like the job, like the role, enjoy, the conversations. But what I was burnt out on is just feel like I was like on a hamster wheel and I couldn't do that part anymore. And so I was like, I need more of a true purpose to do this just than just like, I think mortgage is great and whatever. And so my true purpose and intention came through of I genuinely like helping people financially succeed, feeling like they have financially succeed and not in like the world's eyes, not in like they have all the money in the world in their bank account, but like, what does that look like for them? And hence the podcast and some coaching and course platform aspect was born because for me, it's more than just mortgage, right? Mortgage just happens to be something that usually helps people own a home, which is typically one of the larger wealth pieces of their puzzle. Doesn't have to be, there can be other options and ways, but I definitely think that it can be done fun and in the right way. Unfortunately, though, you have to be willing and you have to also get outside of people's like your own way and the box that people want to put you in. You and I were talking just before the show about labels, right? And how in a weird way they're kind of necessary because it's the easiest way to explain to the world, right? Like what this is or how this operates, right? Like some kind of general, I guess, SOP knowledge, I guess, behind the thing. But then you're right, we pull them so tightly to our identity that we almost take on things energetically that don't even belong to us, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, it is interesting because with what you're saying with the labels, something's just honestly occurring to me as we speak that what happens in our careers and in our jobs and why we end up getting burnt out so often is because we actually get really good at what we do. And then within the confines of the label that we are in, we don't, and the identity that we're wearing, we don't understand how to grow beyond that because we're wearing the label. So for example, I'm an independent hairstylist. Well, the only way that in my mind I could continue to grow as my independent hairstylist who I was to take on more clients or charge them more. Like those were the only two ways that I knew. But now in working with clients, I know there's endless ways that I could have grown. I could have bought a salon. I could have hired somebody to do my blow dries for me. I could have rented out 2 chairs and had somebody who works for me who like preps my clients. Like there's so many other creative ideas that I could have thought of, but all I thought of myself as was independent hairstylist. In my other career, I'll continue the story of my other career because I think it might help really some people with this. I was a copywriter, a marketing advertising copywriter. That was what I did. That's what I came to work and I did. And it was really fun. But I really was at a plateau financially and I don't know how to grow. I'm going to everybody else and saying, how do I grow? What do I do? How do I grow? And they're like, they had no path for me. They're just like, you're a marketing copywriter. This is what you do. You make $70,000 a year. This is your job. And I was like, but I feel there's something more, but I didn't
Right.
understand how to do it. So I hired a coach and she told me, she said, I want you to go to work tomorrow and I want you to say what feels like fun. And I said, nothing. I often say this, like fun is an adult's least favorite F word. Coming as from the person who has a
We're not supposed
podcast
to
called
do
F word out of
it.
your
I
face.
hate that, by the way. I hate that we're taught that we're not supposed to be fun.
Yeah. Like, I am fun. I am having fun. Don't you see how much fun I'm having?
Yeah, with that face.
Yeah, through gritted teeth. And so I was like, nothing's fun about this job. I hate this job. It's in a big beige freaking cubicle. I hate it. But I said, you know what? I just paid this woman $3,000. Tell me what to do. So I'm going to do what she says. So I go to work and I'm like looking around like, none of this is fun. My coworker is clipping her fingernails like she always does on Tuesdays. It's like so loud. My other coworker is chewing loudly. Like, I don't like what I'm doing with this. I'm naming a plastic. I'm naming the lids on like a polypropylene. I'm like naming it polypropylene 62. They wanted, I'm like, no, just call it a lid. Why do you need a fancy name? Anyway, I'm like, this is not fun for me. But I look over my shoulder and my boss is working on something. I'm like, Chad, what are you working on? He's like, oh my gosh, it is this project with talent and development. He's like, I don't know. I don't think you want involved in it. I was like, tell me more. Actually, that sounds like fun.
You're like, I'm looking for something fun. I need to find something fun.
Yes. So I end up getting involved. Like, long story short, I end up getting involved in this project. He eventually is like, Jen, take it. You're obviously having fun. He took my plastic naming project. He's having a blast naming plastics. I'm having a blast in talent development. All of a sudden, I have expanded beyond my label of copywriter. And I start hosting, me and this other coworker start hosting talent and development calls where I'm like live and we're doing all this stuff with employees and helping them grow. And I'm all of a sudden outside of my own label. And that job, that ended up, I applied for a dream job at another company. They paid me more than double what I had been making. One day I was making 70K. The next day I was making more than double that. And that like blew my mind. I followed my fun, expanded beyond the label and grew. And so this is what I teach people how to do now, because I'm like, you have no idea if you broke outside of the realm of what you currently think you should be doing and need to be doing in the hard way that you're doing it. If you just followed your joy, you have no idea where that's leading you, but it's going to be somewhere good.
I love that. Well, and I mean, it's so hard. I mean, like for instance, when we deal with the financial aspect and the big program that I run, which is called Financial Instinct Framework, we start with fun, which is what is your financial spirit animal? And you have to take a quiz and you have to figure out what your animal is. And the whole intention is to kind of figure out like what are your natural instincts, right? Like what, you know, when you go and you spend money, like are your natural instincts to spend it or is it to save it? Is it, you know, like what are, you know, what are your natural instincts and like how do we do this? Because, you know, and it's entirely the reason that my mortgage company is called PBJ Mortgage, making mortgage simple, as simple as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Because mortgage for most people is scary and like intimidating and like whatever. What can be scary about a sandwich mortgage company, right? And I mean, I branched out to do my own thing and everyone thought I was crazy because I was like, I'm so sick and tired of everybody making money not fun. I mean, money can be fun, right? Like, think about all the fun things we spend money on, right? I mean, we spend it on some boring stuff too, unfortunately, but we spend it on plenty of fun stuff. So money doesn't have to be this like big, arduous, horrible, like blah kind of thing. And I think that we get so caught up in the labels. And so we have to kind of transition our brains to think about things differently, right? Like use it. Like I was telling you, I didn't want my daughter labeled as like ADHD for the sake of the label. I wanted her to be able to receive some of the services that come along with this so that we can expand her and not allow her to feel guilty like about who she is. Because sometimes I think like what I experienced because I was late diagnosed ADHD was that I feel like everybody wanted me to be a certain way. Like I'll give you a very specific example. I have a very hard time keeping my feet on the ground. So like even right now, I have my feet crisscross in my chair. I actually have a special chair called a crisscross chair because that's how I naturally like to sit. And when my feet are on the ground, I can't focus. It's really, really hard. It's like my body is constantly telling me in my brain, why are your feet on the ground? Your feet shouldn't be on the ground. Your feet should be up by you. And I'm like, that is literally what my brain is like constantly telling me. And so I felt guilty for like a huge chunk of my life because society continued to tell me over and over again, sit ladylike, you need to put your feet on the ground and whatever. And like that wasn't fun or whatever. And so I think so oftentimes like labels are important in the sense that yeah, they're going to give some context, but that is where it has to stop, right? Like it gives a context, it helps you kind of establish like just a general idea, and then from there we should be asking questions, right? Like we should be asking like, okay, so like what does that mean? Like you saying you're ADHD, like what does that mean? Like how does that positively or negatively affect your life, right? Like what is that, because for me the label of ADHD is actually like a superpower for me because I told people all the time, I can do the work of about 4 people about 75% of the time because my brain is like all over the map, jumping around and figuring things out and making correlations other people wouldn't make. And that's just like how my brain works. And that's not, I mean, that's a positive for the most part. But then I also know that the yin and the yang to that is that about 25% of the time, it's about 50%. And I don't get to decide when that is. There's like just going to be a day where I'm not feeling it. And no matter what I do, my brain's like, yeah, we're just going to chill out today. Congrats. I'm like, okay, great.
And I love that you know and you can own that about yourself and that that label has helped you to do so. And so that's why I think about labels. Labels are great as long as it helps you be more powerful in some way. If that label is helping you to understand yourself in a way that helps you to step up and step in a new way, if that label is helping others to understand you in a way that helps you step up more into yourself, like we'll be like, how do I help others understand what I do? It's like, how do you help yourself step into something even more powerful than what you maybe even feel like you can be? How does it help you understand yourself in a way? And how does it help you? Like, I think that's what it's for versus how we kind of sometimes use it and then end up accidentally limiting ourselves. So one thing I want to say about you sitting cross-legged, that does not surprise me at all that you're somebody who likes to sit cross-legged, because opening your legs is creative. That's opening your creative flow. So from a somatic perspective, from an energetics perspective, open
Interesting.
hips, open creativity. So we have taught women to close our legs and we have closed off our actual creative center. So of course we have a hard time when we're sitting with our legs tight and our body tight and all tightened up. You have a hard time being creative. So ladies, if you're trying to be creative and you're opening up and you're wanting creativity to flow, either sit crisscross applesauce or just open up your legs while you're doing creative things. Also, while you're on Zoom calls and you're receiving information and then you're going to share back, have those legs open. Don't have them closed.
That is fascinating. Well, and like I said, I think that, again, you just have to be careful, like when it comes to anything. And I will especially speak to this financially, right? So there is a very specific label that we run into a lot in my space, and it's credit. And people are so heavily identifying with this label, right? Of good credit, bad credit, whatever. And first of all, I think it's laughable because from my perspective, understanding what credit is, how it works, like what the mechanics are behind it, I know it's an incredibly malleable thing. And so it's very easy actually to manipulate if you understand how it works, how it operates, then you can manipulate it yourself, right? Or get with an expert who can manipulate it for you. But we as a society, because it is sort of the financial marker, right, for success, like a good credit score, because that allows that opens certain doors, right, like loans and credit cards, right, and even some things like insurance, right, like it gets rated by like what your credit score is looking like. Even a fair bit of employers, they're gonna pull your credit, right, and look at your credit history and things like that. Different kinds of licensing departments for jobs, right, they also will have credit pulls and things like that. And so we now have created this label that, first of all, it's laughable. We're tying it to our identity because how manipulative it is. Like You know what I mean? Again, you just don't know how. But like, why are we letting this negatively play into our lives, right? And negatively affect us, basically financially speaking, when it's a made up thing? Like credit, what, 100 years ago didn't exist? Like that wasn't a thing. There was like no, benchmark or whatever. That credit looks something more like a handshake, right? Like an understanding between two people and knowing kind of what they represented and what their value system and what their value set is. It's just as we got bigger as a society, there wasn't really that ability, right? To like just know all the people that you were going to possibly loan money to or provide things for. And so it was necessary to create some kind of a construct to be a general measuring, metrics, if you will. And so I always encourage people when it comes to money that you cannot place your identity or your self worth when it comes to a lot of these labeling metrics is because they don't take into account anything about you. And they're often very manipulative that you can manipulate those items, as well as they are literally a math-based system. So they're just an algorithm on the back end, and they're just looking at data points, trying to help make decisions, right? So that the financial institution, that the math can track for them. But so many people, like I said, they tie themselves to these stories, and it breaks my heart because they'll come to us and they'll be like, oh well, I can't possibly buy a house, and they tell themselves these stories because, oh, my credit's bad, or oh, this is whatever. And I'm like, that is absolutely ridiculous. Like you 1,000% can change all of that, right? You just have to have the roadmap, and you have to be willing to do the steps, right, that are necessary to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, credit score is definitely not necessarily my forte and not my expertise, but the stories that we tell ourselves and how that stops us and limits us from a financial aspect, 100%. By the way, it's so funny as you're talking about that because I've always had what I called old lady credit. Like from my 20s, I always had like well over 800, very proud of it. I got this credit card that I forgot. I just keep forgetting to pay it off, and it only has $8 on it a month. There's like this one payment on this dang card, and I forget to pay it. And I looked at my credit score recently. I was like, what? It's under 800. What is this? Because I just keep forgetting. It's like $7. It's $7, and that is affecting. So, and that did affect. I was like, I'm not the person that I thought I was because I've always been this person who had it's so true. I hear what you're saying, how that can really impact and how we really identify as a kind of person. But for me, I work with women who have businesses, and the thing that they run into is they've got a business and then they go out there to make sales so that people buy this beautiful thing that they have, that they want to have customers. And they come up against all kinds of things that I can't sell. I'm a bad salesperson. I don't want to be sleazy. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. I don't want to, because of the stories that they're telling themselves about what it means to be a salesperson, what it means to be like, we've got this idea in our head of like a bro marketer. And so those kinds of stories 100% limit. So if you're a small business owner, it's that. If you're in a corporate job, it's more in those labels of like the confines of what you feel like you can be versus looking at the gifts that you have to offer, all of the gifts that you have to offer. Like what made me an awesome copywriter was that I knew people. I had done hair for 12 years. I knew human beings. And so I understood human beings. That made me good at advertising, good at marketing, because I got it. I got people. So we don't often think of all of the skills and the talents that we have that we bring to the table, and we live under the confines of what this thing means about me. My credit score dropping because I forgot a $7 payment over and over, like that does not ultimately tell the full story of me as a human being. Maybe that's something for me to go clean up. Yeah, I sometimes do let things be a little messy sometimes and just like let things dangle on, like the $7 payment. I just need to switch to another card. So that does tell something about my story, but we will make that label mean something about us. And that is just, it is so limiting.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Imagine having the power to control your financial destiny, no matter where you start. Welcome to the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform, where financial education is tailored to your unique journey. We cover everything you need, from basic budgeting and saving strategies to advanced investing and retirement planning. Learn at your own pace with lessons that match your level of experience. Whether you're a beginner or looking to enhance your financial knowledge, join our community of learners and benefit from shared insights and expert guidance. The Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform equips you with the skills and confidence to take charge of your financial future. Ready to master your finances? Enroll in our courses today at the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform. Start your path to financial independence now.
Visit us at fms.tips and fms.college for more information.
Hello and welcome to PBJ Mortgage, where your home ownership dreams become reality. Today, we want to share why choosing PBJ Mortgage is the right choice for your home financing needs. At PBJ Mortgage, we're built on a foundation of values that drive us every day. Our commitment to educate, empathize, and empower our clients sets us apart in the mortgage industry. Our clients are at the heart of everything we do, and their success stories speak volumes. With years of experience, our team possesses in-depth knowledge of the mortgage programs, ensuring you receive expert guidance and the best possible rates. We offer a diverse range of loan options to suit your unique needs, including conventional, FHA, VA, and more. No matter your situation, we've got a solution. At PBJ Mortgage, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service. Our dedicated loan officers are here to guide you every step of the way, making the process as smooth as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We understand that time is of the essence, which is why we've streamlined our processes for efficiency and convenience. Transparency and clear communication are paramount. You'll always know where you stand throughout your mortgage journey. Reach out to us today to set up a call to discover your options. If you're ready to make your home ownership dreams a reality, contact PBJ Mortgage today. Let us empower you during this exciting journey. Phone number 4-693-733-107 www.pbjteam.com. Visit our website or give us a call to get started. We look forward to helping you secure your future home. PBJ Mortgage, where home begins.
Thanks for your patience.
I think you make an excellent point. I mean, first of all, we have so much power within ourselves, and we sell ourselves short. And that's every single one of us, right? I mean, some of the people in like some of my programs, they're much older than I am, right? Like literally practically old enough to be my mom. And we think in our heads, at some point we're just going to have it figured out, right? Like we're going to just figure it out. This rock's going to fall out of the sky, bonk us on the head. And, we're going to be older and wiser, and there we go. And the thing about it is it's not really true, right? Like, first of all, things are going to always constantly be happening. Second of all, there's so much information we couldn't possibly understand it all, even if we wanted to, right? Like that capacity. I mean, and trust me, if anybody's tried to figure everything out or learn all the information they could possibly learn, it's this girl right here, because I love information and I read more books and listen to more podcasts and do more things than most people. In fact, it's so funny. I don't realize I know so much as information, and then somebody will make a comment about something and I know facts about it and I'll start talking about it. And they're like, how do you know about that? I'm like, because I'm curious about everything and I read everything and I like to understand everything. That's why. So sorry about that. But a lot of times we are limiting ourselves and believing that we need to have all these things figured out. And the truth is that we just really need to be aware of like where we're at, what kind of alignment we want, like if we are having fun, right? Like if that, if that's where we're energetically trying to align, like whatever this looks like, because nothing else really makes a difference. And like, how do you reach financial mastery? Well, you reach financial mastery because you feel good, right? With your money, but also kind of with everything else. And that's why it cracks me up when people talk about, oh, well, I don't talk about money. Well, but money is just sort of the end result, right? Like it's just the thing that kind of fuels everything. It's just our society has decided that that's like a construct that needs to exist, to make society run. And so the rest of it is just you kind of figuring out you, right? Like energetically, meeting with people and like people are going to come in and out in different seasons of your path and your existence. They're going to teach you things. They're going to relate to you in different ways. They're going to bring knowledge and wisdom to you that you didn't hold before. But we have to stop tying our identity so tight to all of these things of the past. And it's hard. I mean, I have had to do hard freaking work in the last 2 years, like with my financial situation. And Jen, I don't know if you know this. You may know a little bit of it from some of the conversations that were had in Kathy's program. So basically, the financial situation that I ran myself into is that when my daughter was born 8 weeks, 2 days early, she spent 47 days in the NICU. As she was coming out of that, my industry started slowing. We had this big expensive house. We put it on the market. We're selling it. The house floods. Does over $500,000 of damage to the house. Basically, it damn near bankrupts me. So here I am. I am the
New baby.
money expert, right? This is what I do for a living. And now I'm basically bankrupt. My credit is trash. I have collectors calling me all the time. I have attorneys, there are suits being filed to sue me for the debts that I owe or whatever, right? Like all of these things. And I now have a choice. I can be upset. I can let it destroy me. I can let the labels of the bad credit and the basically bankrupt thing, like just cloud me. Or I can sit in the uncomfortable and learn, first of all, how do I utilize it for the good? How do I help others with this information, right? How do I structure things that can come out of this scenario, right? And then how do I heal some of the things that didn't necessarily cause it in the first place, but maybe are now being dredged up because of there's all these feelings, right, that are coming out. Because arguably prior to this, I was incredibly successful financially, like from the outside, like looking in, right? And so how do I do that? And I think so oftentimes we allow things to crush us, not because we don't have the power to fix them, but because we've let the label that ties so close to our identity, we won't move past it. And you have to be strong enough to say, no, that's fine. Like, I see the label. That's fine. That may be true for this moment, but it isn't who I am. Because me, with all this mess, that's not who I am. But you know what? It is in the season of time, right? Like bad credit, like that is what it is right now. Like that is in the season of time. I think it's just so important for anybody to hear, whether it be that you're trying to succeed financially or just in life. Like you can't let the internet trolls or society's opinion or your mother's opinion or whatever it is that's coming out of the woodwork as you are working through your life come to stop you, right? Like those opinions are irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for moving through that, because you just notice all of the labels that you could have taken on in that entire thing. You could have taken on failure. I mean, there might be moments that you felt certain things, but you didn't take on that label and continue to live your life through that label. You said, you know what, I'm going to get through this. You're turning around and helping people. Like you had that focus. So I'm curious, you've probably shared on this podcast, but I'm personally curious, like what was it that you felt like helped you to shift and not take that on in those moments? How did you not just keep cycling on that story?
A lot of it is awareness, right? Like I talk a lot about the intentionality aspect. When my husband and I made the decision, we made it knowingly and together when we purchased the property, right? Which ultimately you can say was kind of the center of the collapse in the sense of like, financially speaking, it was a giant financial burden, right? And I think this is where a lot of people just really get stuck is they'll take a risk, right? But whether it be spending like one single large amount of money or purchasing a property, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But the difference is that my husband and I made it in alignment. We knew what we were getting into. We knew that it was a risk. We knew that it absolutely could work out flawlessly or blow up in our face. Like those are always all possibilities. And it just, when things started going sideways or whatever, right? Like it was just one foot in front of the other. And hey, what is the worst thing that could happen? And that's what I kept asking myself. What's the worst thing that could happen here, right? The worst thing that could happen here is that these people could take away my house. Basically, I would be homeless. Is that really that bad in the grand scheme of things, right? You can always with the community and the people that I have in my life and involvement with, there was always going to be likely somewhere for me to rest my head, whether it be a car, somebody's house, something or whatever, right? And my worth isn't in this world. right? Like what I like the way that I believe, like from a religious perspective or whatever, like it's never been about this life for me. So I can be really upset or whatever. I can, whatever. And I mean, I felt like a utter failure, especially because what you don't also know is that before we purchased the house, I had my parents in my ear of like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, is that you sure that's a really good decision?
You don't want to be house poor, all the things.
All the things, right? But again, we made the decision knowingly. And my husband actually, I think, struggled with it worse than I did, truthfully. He was like, oh, we should have kept the other house. Oh, whatever. And I'm like, look, and this is the one single thing that I had that literally just brought me to my knees is I before all this crap happened, y'all, I was a control girl. Like everything in my life was like a nice organized boxes and like structure and like all the things or whatever. Guess what? When all that crap happens, practically all at once, there's no such thing as structure. There's no such thing as nice clean boxes. It is utter chaos.
And what did you gain
realize,
on the other side of that?
Yeah. You realize the only thing that you have the ability to control is your attitude and your outlook. That's it. You can't go back. You can't change the decision you just made. You can't go back and like undo anything, right? You can't even control exactly what's happening right at this exact moment. So I made the conscious choice that, you know what I am going to do is I am going to help others. I'm not going to be afraid to speak to it because there are other people who look at me and they say, hey, you're the expert. If they see that this kind of crap can happen to me and it is potentially a reality, it's a lot less scary for them. It's a lot less scary to be like, oh, you know what? It's not just me. I wasn't the only one to experience it. I wasn't the only one to walk through hell or whatever, right? Like, and guess what? Like they came out on the other side. And then also, I just didn't want to live that way because I had no idea. And I mean, honestly, we thought, okay, after like, this is the other part of it. We took like 9 months for us to like get the house revamped and like the mold issue is settled and the remodel and all of these things, right? All this stuff. And then we put it back on the market and it's like all these houses in our neighborhood were like flying off the shelves. So we're like, great, it's going to sell like this. 2 years, didn't sell. Sat. And I'm not joking. Every professional we talk to, and remind yourself what industry I work in. So I knew the professionals, okay? This is not like amateur hour over here. Like I knew the people to talk to. I interviewed, like I am a smart person. None of them could tell you why it didn't sell. None of them. They didn't have explanations or reasons. So again, could I control this? Could I let it run my life or whatever? No. And so I just have to continue to take one step in front of the other, doing what I'm supposed to do and knowing that it's going to figure itself out on the other side. And I'm not going to let it drag me down.
So you had just to break this down, and you likely have probably on your podcast, but through this perspective of like, there was a point where you could have taken on any identity that you chose to take on. You could have taken on the victim identity and nobody would have faulted you for that one bit. And maybe there were moments that you did take on the victim identity and you felt sorry for yourself, and that's okay too. But ultimately, you made a conscious choice to not, even when the world would have said, girl, like we give you all the lax in the world to just be a victim in the situation, you ultimately chose to not be. And a lot of times we don't realize the ways that we are allowing ourselves to be made a victim of life when we actually have a choice to not be and to actually write our own story, which is 100% what you have done here. You've written your own story, even in the moments when it was it had to have been, I imagine, and I've been here too. Like, you're like, I am teaching this thing. This is the thing that I do. This is so embarrassing. This is so whatever. But you had the consciousness to say, you know what? I see how this will serve myself and this will serve others in the future. So I'm going to keep going instead of choosing to be the victim of the circumstance. But I also want people to understand that that's not always accessible to every person in every moment. Like that, for some people, your husband, for example, when the house got taken away or when money feels like it gets taken away, when we get brought down to our knees, when something like that happens to some people's nervous systems, and this is different for everybody, the things that do it, it feels like death. And this can be like money gets taken away. If I do not have this amount of money in the bank, if I do not have a house, if I do not have a spouse, if I do not have something, I will die. Because somewhere in our system, in our family system, and in our reflected in our internal system, we have, if I do not have this, I am not valuable, and therefore I am nothing. And it feels to your system like you will be rejected and you will die. So I work with a lot of women who are attempting to market their businesses on social media, and they feel like if nobody likes this post, this is not conscious, but it's energetic.
Yeah.
If nobody likes this post, I will be rejected. And if I am rejected, that means that I'm thrown out on my own. And literally, in the upbringing of human beings, you would die because you would not be protected. You would not have community. You would be rejected. And so we can have so much compassion for ourselves that for some of us, we have this, like, if I do not work hard and earn, if I do not feel like I'm grinding, I'm not doing enough. I'm not contributing my weight. If I'm not contributing my weight, I'm going to be thrown out of the community and I will die. So to your nervous system, there are imprints of this absolutely has to happen, and we will just white knuckle. And if we don't have a coach or support or community or a wife who has a different way of looking at things, who can help to guide us to a different way of thinking about it, we will, without our awareness, take on the identity of victimhood or take on some other identity simply because we know no other way. And so again, we can have so much compassion that this happens all the time. And it most certainly has to do with money, because like you said, the way that we do one thing is the way that we do all things. And so if I'm earning money in a way that I feel like I have to work hard for it, if the hard work stops, I feel like I'm not worthy of it. So
Right.
I will keep making it hard. I will subconsciously, I will keep making it hard, because if I stop, I'm no longer of value. And what's going to happen if I'm no longer of value? Oh, I'm going to get kicked out and I'm going to die. So our nervous systems will keep us in these cycles. And that's why I say all money can be fun money, and all money gets to be fun money if you want it to be. But your nervous system doesn't believe you. And so we have to bring awareness to those things, those cycles that are running, like your husband probably had in his, and you've got your own in your own ways that that impact you in your life. We all have them. But when we can bring awareness to it in a moment like what you had the awareness to make a choice. And so when we have that awareness, we can then make choices that are in alignment with what we really desire, which ultimately I think everybody wants to be making more fun money. I don't think any of us really want hard money. Or we subconsciously think we need to.
I was going to say, yeah, definitely nobody wants, I mean, even in my space, nobody wants hard money. That's like a special kind of loan where it's like, no one else will loan you money. So here it is, hard money.
I didn't know that.
It's called. No, and I think that's an excellent point, because it is why I talk about alignedness and awareness and intention or whatever, right? Because first of all, look, I'm very analytical, right? I mean, think about what I do for a living, right? This is a very logical type of a career path, right? Like mortgage, it's money, it makes sense, it's math, I mean, I always joke the math is the math. I mean, that part is true. But I discounted how important not only just like awareness, but alignment and, having like coaches and community and people like this in your corner, because I'll tell you, one of the huge things that pulled me through a lot of that wasn't just my own awareness and my own ability, like that I'd done some hard work, right? Like of getting to this kind of stage, of life, but also that I laid myself bare with some of the people that I was around, and they stepped up and they lifted me up, right? And so I think a lot of times when we are kind of, and this is the thing that I think is so lovely, honestly, about society now, is I know a lot of people hate the GoFundMes, and there's absolutely some people out in the world that are scammy and like all the things or whatever, right? But it's nice to see that sometimes when people are just having a rough go, right? When they had some things where life just lifed, that other people are going to step in and lift up, because it is, I mean, you're right. Your nervous system does kind of shut down, right? And it does, especially most people with money, because your money patterns are built before you're 8 years old. Most of us are built with scarcity. I mean, think about the generational patterns and think about the fact that most of us, if it's not our parents or our grandparents, it's our great grandparents at this point, were a part of the Great Depression. They experienced scarcity very firsthand on a very big scale. And so they pass this down, right? And also your body is also naturally looking for threat anyway. So like when you pair these two together, you got extreme scarcity happening, baby, like in your world. And it's lovely to see other people kind of coming around. And that's something that you always can do, is support those around you, right? We're all at different phases in our lives and our journey. And financial mastery also doesn't happen without community, without us reaching down our hand and saying, hey, I'm one step ahead of you. Let me help you. And that doesn't always necessarily look at a monetary payout. That can look like giving advice, right? Offering a free resource. Hey, have you read this book? Have you listened to this podcast? Can I make this introduction for you? Or whatever the case may be. And that's why I am so huge about collaboration. And I was telling somebody the other day, because I gave them an opportunity that they were just so grateful for. And I said, and she's like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to repay you. And I said, you don't need to. It's not about that. That's not what this is. I said, this is about me energetically giving to you something that you need and me expecting you to do the same out into the world, right? Like you also providing like that kind of positivity to the world. And I said, because it isn't like that. It's not a one-to-one. It's not like I'm giving you something and then tit for tat, it's having to come back. That's not the exchange here. The exchange is me helping expand you, and you are going to help other people expand. That may not be me, and maybe somebody else. It doesn't really matter. But that is our intention and our goal and what we want, what I want to do for the world, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. I was at a women's event back in November, and there was somebody on stage. She supports women with money. And one of the things that she said that has really stuck with me, that I think you're speaking to very clearly, is to start looking at, she was specifically talking about money, but I think this is also your time. It's all resources. Anything that you would normally put the word spend, get rid of that word and change it to investment. So I'm investing. So when you're offering your time, you're not spending your time, you're investing it. So you're offering your time to somebody else. How is that going to multiply? How is that going to multiply for you and for them? So instead of, and we use that word so flippantly, spend. I do too. Yeah, I've been catching myself since November. I notice now where I say it and I'm like, oh,
that Raz is like,
what if instead of spending, I was investing? And what's the energetic difference of that? Because that's what I teach essentially is sales energetics, business energetics, energetics of exchange. And so what is the difference? You can feel it. That's a felt difference in I'm spending it. There's a running out of things, or I'm investing it means that without me even doing anything, it will multiply simply because of the energy that I put in. So the energy input equals energy output. Now, let's think about that. I'm going to go back to my example of me at work in that job. My energy input to energy output. I was creating, just having fun, creating these really good scripts, and like things were taking off and it was really fun. But then I was putting energy in and in and in and in. And I was putting like energy in that was like, I'm grinding. And the energy that was kind of coming out was kind of like, I'm grinding. And I was actually getting jobs that I didn't really like to do that I was grinding on, like the polypropylene naming situation. I was getting more grind. The more I was grinding, the more opportunities to grind I had. But the moment that I said, you know what would be fun? That opened up a new opportunity where now the energy that I was putting in was majorly multiplying. Like I was having fun and it was multiplying. I was having fun and it was multiplying. And so notice where you have started to get into the spend and you're no longer in the investment, because we will have fun and we'll be like having a good time with things. Like you start something and you love it, and then eventually we fall out of love with things. I believe that happens when the thing is no longer either the thing and it's time to expand beyond it, or the energy that we're putting into it is coming from the grind, it's coming from the spend instead of coming from the investment. How is this going to multiply?
I love that.
And fun is automatically, one more thing on that, is that the energy of joy, your energy of fun is the energy of love, which automatically multiplies. Anything that comes from curiosity, love, joy, pleasure, all of those emotional vibrations are naturally multiply. That's the energy of love itself it continues to multiply. The energy, those other energies are very constrictive, very restrictive, very low, slow, hard energies. And so they naturally pull you more into that grind energy.
Yeah, no, I love that. Actually, it's so funny that you talk about curiosity because actually, the second book that I wrote that is actually releasing in the next couple of weeks. It's called Ask the Question, The Power of Intellectual Curiosity, because I truly do believe it's like a whole superpower that people just
Totally.
have no idea and they do not tap it enough, man. Like we are taught to not ask questions and it is so important. Like you should literally be doing nothing but asking questions. You should literally just take yourself back to your 2-year-old self and just put the why as like your main primary function. Just keep asking that
Are we
question.
the
That's
same
like a whole
person in a different body?
yeah, maybe, very maybe. It's yeah, maybe. Who knows? But oh my gosh, it's such a great conversation. You and I probably could talk for about another 3 hours about all these things. But tell people how they can connect with you. And I think you have a quiz that they can take. And so tell us a little bit about that and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, so I believe that we all move through the world with a certain kind of energy. So I've created a quiz that helps you to understand that energy and then also understand what you contribute through that energy. So it's through the lens of entrepreneurs because that's specifically what I work with, but you can also take a lot out of this even if you're not an entrepreneur. You can go to jenliss.com/quiz and find out what your magnetic archetype is because ultimately, I'll just take that back to you, Jax. You're curious. That's very clear how curious you are. You love being curious. You wrote a book about curiosity. You following your joy straight to a contribution that is going to multiply, right? So that is your energy. I can probably guess what you are in my little quiz, but if you go and if you know that and you know that the things that you enjoy is where you contribute best from, that's the energy you contribute best from, you will see financial multiplication happen from the application of understanding that. You're doing it with knowledge because this is what you do, but it's also intuitive. You're intuitively following your curiosity and turning that around into something that will help others do it too, which is such a beautiful thing. You can follow me also. My podcast is called Fuck Around and Get Paid. You can find me on Instagram at Jennifer Liss.
I love that. And thank you so much for being a guest. And so hopefully you found good things out of this episode. And now it's just a matter of putting it into some application, right? And kind of getting those juices flowing and learn to have fun with your money because it doesn't always have to be boring, y'all. I mean, I know that paying bills isn't the most exciting thing, but But thank you so much for watching this episode of Financial Mastery Simplified. We'll see you next week on another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified.